For those of us working in the technological fields, learning more about AI and keeping up with the advancements like in the field, it's sort of a part of our work, but it's not the same for everybody else, for the majority of the population. But the problem is AI is not being used only on people working on tech. Rather, it's being used on almost every person that walks on the face of Earth. I'm Ritika, a senior product designer with GitLab, and today I want to talk about why discussing AI is a necessity and not a choice. So in the post-Bluebird era of engagement farming, where like almost everybody is constantly thinking about getting the highest number of likes, reshares, and engagement on their content on the web, we most commonly come across two kinds of like content related to AI. The first is led by the faction of ex-optimists and some skeptics, and this one says like it's very likely that AI is going to like bring everything and everyone down. And the second one, led by AI optimists in technology, this faction claims that AI is the only savior that there is. Now, luckily, there's also a third kind of lesser popular faction that I would say that many of us like pay less attention to, but they are talking about just the right things. Now, this faction is urging us to responsibly train and design the models, the language learning models, so we don't find ourselves stuck in this loop of systemic oppression, just that this time the AI edition. Now, should we select a faction? Why not, if it pleases us to do so? Should we just ignore and get on with our lives? Definitely not, because the intensity and gravity of the impact that these technologies they're having on our everyday lives, it's so high that the cost that ignoring it would incur to us, it's going to be unmanageable and very hard to pay. But it doesn't impact me. I don't use any of those AI-powered solutions, and I'm definitely not into tech. So this is the kind of answers that I mostly get from people who I reach out to, like trying to convince them why they should be reading about large language models, machine learning, artificial intelligence, even sometimes neural networks, not to like become like experts in the topics, but rather to just understand in the crudest of way how these technologies are working under the hood. Now, my answer to these questions is, like my answer to any such argument generally would be that if you're a person from a community that identifies as a minority, if you're availing educational, medical, financial services, if you use social media platforms, tools, if you drive, if you have a house, if you rent a house, if you hold a job, if you're looking for a job, if you're applying for a job, basically if you exist, your life is directly impacted by AI. And if you are not aware of it, it's just because you have not paid enough attention to it just yet. So AI has potentials, probably lots of it. Now, just like platforms, the software platforms that like enable you to do a lot of things and don't really dictate what you like create using their services, one cannot control what is going to be made out of this like huge potential that AI brings. So there are a couple of examples on the scale of outstanding to outrageous that I wanted to share with you. The first one here, which is on the left, is of an organization called Karya. What Karya does is they are a data cooperative enabling economic opportunities for rural Indians. They capture, label, and annotate data for their clients with high accuracy, and in doing so, they provide critical supplementary income to people in rural communities. So they have been able to form this like very efficient transdisciplinary sort of model for the organization that is not exploitative in nature and sort of puts like distributes the power among different sections of the society, like balancing out the power dynamics. Now, the second one on the right side is of an application that lets men rate AI generated women like we have learned nothing from history. So while I was looking for different examples over the web, like visiting websites of different tools, and just trying to understand like where to put them on the scale, it was very clear in a few cases that this is a positive example, this is a negative example. But then there were some that left a lot to be like thought about, to be interpreted. And here is one such example. This one is from a tool called Clearview AI. And what it does is they have an investigative platform that allows law enforcement to rapidly generate leads to identify suspects, witnesses, victims, and to close the cases faster, claiming to keep the community safe. And they also have a developer API available for high quality algorithm and like rapid facial identification and verification. Now, there were a few things that I came across as content on this website that I really wanted to like talk about, because in my knowledge, like through the frame that I look at things, it felt that something was missing in the larger picture. So one sentence on the website, it says, weeks of using Clearview AI, federal prosecutors issued over 900 warrants and charged over 350 people. Now, this could very well be true, and there's a very high likelihood that the statement in itself is very true. But what I do not know, reading this, is how many of those charges were like right and how many were wrong, and of those warrants issued, like what was the eventual result of it? Like, was it a wrongful? Did it aid in any sort of wrongful conviction? Did it like topple somebody's life upside down? What was the impact on the people that's mentioned here, the word people? So I don't know a lot about like the world of prosecution, the world of law enforcement, even policy making for that matter, but I am from product. And one thing that I can definitely that I have a lot of knowledge about is if you want your data to have a meaningful impact on what you're building for your users, then you have to measure what really matters. But looking at the kind of information that's like placed on this website, it does not feel like they are building this solution keeping in mind who this product is going to be eventually used on, but rather who's going to use this. Similarly, another good example that I found on the same website was this claim that, again, will be like, if you look at it, this does stand true in many ways. It says they helped in tracking down those who attacked the Capitol. Now, again, what they have not really specified is what part did this tool have to play in this tracking down process, because as we all are aware, many of those people who were at the Capitol doing what they were doing, causing the right suspects, they uploaded their own selfies doing the crime, and so many of them were kind of reported to the authorities by people in the community because they were spotted on different social media applications, on even dating applications. So what part did those things have to play, and what part did this particular tool have to play? It's definitely not clear. So yeah, my point is, you might not be into technology, but the technology is 100% into you. And when you decide that you do not want to be interested in like taking part in the conversations, in trying to understand what's happening like behind the curtains, you're just placing complete control and complete power in the hands of people who do not have the same lived experiences as you, and still would be like deciding making some very crucial decisions that's going to impact you very directly. And that's the reason that we need to think about ways so that we can shift this power to the hands of people who are impacted rather than just a handful of people who are good with technology or who are interested in AI. Now, the open source movement has a good history. It helped bring like transparency, accountability to the software world, the software development process in general. But there's a difference between a software and a machine learning model. Now, to make changes to a software, all you need to do is like dabble with the source code, and that is pretty much it. But for machine learning models, you have to like do a lot. It's not a straightforward process at all. It's a very multi-layered process if you have to make any change to a machine learning model. So you have to think about like how is it that you're going to be feeding the data to the model, then in what way, like how would you plan the whole thing out, how to make corrections to the model, like what softwares you're going to be using in the process, how to handle the load of computation, because it's very computation heavy process, and while like this is on top of everything else, like while you're thinking about the tools, the plan for like feeding data to the model to train it, you still have to think about the computation requirements. So when it comes to calling AI open, we cannot rely solely on the licenses that we have otherwise used in the open source softwares. It has to be like very different. Like we have to look at how we are applying the principles or the essence of open source movement to this whole new realm that we have sort of like found ourselves amidst. So the working of an ML model currently is opaque, and I'm not saying like this for the non-technical people, but also for the technical people, because with so many layers in picture, the complexity makes it a very opaque like exterior altogether. And openness demands transparency, and yet there's nothing transparent about this. So it's really important that we like find a way to communicate how these models are functioning, like how to simplify the overall functioning of how the data is being used, how it is like processed, or like how different pieces of data are considered in making a decision, so that the people who are like whose lives are going to be directly impacted can understand what these are doing and also like contribute and make suggestions to improve it. Now, openness alone cannot democratize AI because of the computational intensity required in the process, like I had mentioned. So it's not as easy as contributing to an open source project, like if you want to draw parallels. So creating and displacing AI technology is resource and cost intensive. So we have to be sure that when a big project is on its path of being realized, it does so like in the presence of a lot of regulations that the right bodies put in place, and so they do it like responsibly, ethically, involving the right people at the right time. And that's why like even though there are different claims that some data models or even large language models are open in nature, so there's a lot to be like still discussed upon. And there's some really good like write-ups on the internet if you want to like read more about them. So here it says like I was going through this blog which was on pluralistic, daily links from Cory Doctorow, a website. It says OpenAI isn't. And there was this like excerpt from here which really intrigued me, and it says when the AI industry claims that open will democratize AI, they're hiding the ball. People who hear this democratization claims are thinking about entrepreneurial kids in garages, but unless these kids have access to multi-million-dollar data centers, they can't be disruptors who topple the tech giants. So at best, what they can do is they can hope to pay rent to those giants for accessing their computer grids, in order to create products and services that at margin that rely on existing products rather than displacing them. So like I said, it's like really difficult to displace things and create something from scratch that's as important and as huge and impactful. And this is the reason why we need to be sure that when such technologies they're being built, we have good regulations in place, made by people who are considerate of everybody who's going to be like at the receiving end of these decisions. There is a way which has also proven to be very successful, where authoritative bodies involve the stakeholders in the process of building these technology and explain to them the models like in the simplest and most understandable manner, so they could suggest improvements. And the example that I'm going to be quoting here is that of what a team at Carnegie Mellon University and University of Pittsburgh, what a team of researchers there used. They used an AI lifecycle comic boarding to bring actual frontline workers and unhoused individuals to take part in discussions. And this is an example that I was able to like find on an article on The Guardian. And so I was just curious about like reading more about this process, or rather this methodology called comic boarding, and I was able to find like a definition of that it is a participatory design method that uses specially created comic books to generate engaging, productive brainstorming sessions with children by leveraging known plot formats, interaction styles, and characters in comics. Researchers can elicit ideas even from children who are not accustomed to brainstorming, such as those from schools where rote learning is the norm. And this is such a brilliant idea, and I was really amazed, and like in a good way, that people are already trying this and like succeeding in their efforts using these methodologies. So yeah, the future has hope. Eventually, what I want to like leave you with is be aware of how these technologies under the AI umbrella are used and how they function under the hood. Listen to what experts are saying, and like do so with like a lot of care, like maybe with a pinch of salt, but keep up with the latest advancements in the field. The next time you see your health report, see if an AI had a part to play in in telling you your information about your vitals. When you get a grade in an exam, see if AI had a role to play there in determining how you should be evaluated. When you get a parking ticket, if an AI was responsible for determining if you should be getting the ticket. Just be mindful, be careful, and try to keep yourselves as up to date as possible. And whenever you find a window, do take part in discussions around anything AI, because it's a technology that is going to dominate our future. We have to be sure that we are not putting the sole power in the hands of a handful of people. Thank you.